But Phil approached me and he told me about the experiment. And I, all of a sudden, had a myriad of questions.
Okay.
And I kept asking these questions and I didn't get quite the answers that I wanted. And one of the primary questions was, Phil, you're a sophisticated teenager, you're growing up in a very sophisticated environment, how could you be duped?
Yeah.
And we talked about the political context, we talked about the environment and the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Then my question was answered when I met Ron Jones. And when I met Ron Jones, I got it.
When I first met Ron Jones, I thought, God, he is so young. He's like one of us.
I would come to work in just a white shirt and oftentimes without a tie and roll up his sleeves.
He did innovative things too. He was bringing guests to the class, very interesting, controversial guests. He brought in a communist, he brought in a Klansman, he brought in a member of the American Nazi Party to talk about white supremacy.
All the way through, he was presenting different sides of every question. I remember when we studied about Vietnam, he made us write 10 arguments for, 10 arguments against.
He didn't try to be above you. He tried to, I would say that Jones had a capacity to teach with you.
When he said he did simulations, I realized that's a lot of what he lived for. He liked creating the experience of being there.
You know, I felt like he was trying to look at the whole picture always, and trying to get us to look at the whole picture always, with a lot of heart and a lot of passion.
It was always exciting. One day you'd go in and the desks were in a row, and then the next day he'd come and they'd be all spread all over the room.
He had what I called stage presence. I didn't know at the time that he was an actor and a fiction writer, but he commanded the front of the classroom like a skilled actor.
I felt that students could feel something and work with it. That'd be better than simply reading about it. So I tried to develop simulations.
I remember one of the projects he wanted to do was to analyze the garbage that came out of Cubberley High School, because he felt that was a statement about the nature of society. He was the original Greenpeace activist. I mean, he really was, before his time.
Often we never really knew where Ron Jones was going to take us when he went down some of his paths for education.
But then he started it out by saying, we're just going to do an experiment. And it's going to be sort of a non-threatening experiment. It felt pretty relaxed. And he was a very young, charismatic, very popular teacher. He had us for 6 months before this experiment started. So he was, no matter what he said, we were going to go along with it because he was the cool teacher.
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
He is one of the most charismatic educators I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure before I met him what I was going to encounter when I met him.
Yeah.
And I met this soft-spoken, brilliant educator. And I got it. I got what Mark was telling me, what Phil was telling me about how they were kind of sucked in, how he brought the students into the educational process by role-playing, by having them kind of live the lessons. And I'm a big fan of Ron Jones.
Yeah.
And the rules of the experiment, if we go along with the experiment, we'll get an A. If we try an assassination and fail, we get an F. If we don't want to go along with it, we go to the library. Was that right? It's a C?
At that point, we knew we had slogans, rules, sense of direction, and we had a secret police to make sure we followed the rules.
Rules were difficult, and the presence of the secret police made it very difficult to function, really.
Yeah.
Because the rules applied in class, the rules applied on campus, but the rules also applied out of class, off campus, and at home.
Yeah.
And one of them was you could not gather in groups larger than 2. And you never knew who was going to come in the next morning and turn you in. And so you all the lines of communication between students were broken down because of that. The salute was required. You had to salute all the time, and you had to salute each other off campus. So if you met somebody, you know, at a football game that afternoon, if you didn't salute them, you might be tried the next day. And if you were tried and convicted, your friends didn't stick up for you. You were sent off to the library for the duration. So there was this constant fear and lack of communication and rumors because we didn't have the internet. So there were rumors and on top of rumors, and you never could quite figure out what was going on. And every day the rules of the game changed. It wasn't rosy. There wasn't a rosy hue during the time. It started out as a fun game, but then as it evolved, it became literally scary. You became confused and scared, and then relieved when it was over, like Phil said. One of the questions you asked earlier, I still struggle with, which is what did it stand for? And I have one page of class notes, and it talks a lot about this unity concept, and that as a group we will do more, we can accomplish more than we can as individuals. I don't think it didn't get past that until the twist came in, which we don't want to do a spoiler on. But so I still try and figure out how to answer that question. What did it stand for? But basically, it's kind of like a gang. It stood for a group of people who were going to go out together and do things. And he would say we were going to do good things, and then we'd have all these scary, weird rules. And so that's why he struggled with what's going on here and what am I going to do about it.
All went back to the way that many children were raised in that time period, where, you know, they didn't get a lot of one-on-one personal time with their parents. There was no such thing as how are you feeling, and nobody cared how you were feeling. You just got the best grades you could, and you went on to college, and that would please your parents.
I think there was an innate feeling of wanting to be accepted by your peers. You wanted to be good, you wanted to fit in, and I wanted people to like me. I think I would have been capable of many things that I would hate to admit.
In high school, I mean, in all school, in life, people are going to want popularity so bad that they're going to go to great lengths for it.
This feeling of a group is still here. You want to belong to a group, and if you don't belong to any group, you're a kind of a freak, and no one wants to be a freak.
One of the most basic human needs is the need for social belonging. And to satisfy that need, we will step across that line between good and evil, between what we know is right and usually do and what we know at some level is wrong and we shouldn't do. But just this once, we're going to step across because the group is pushing us in that direction. For some people, the world is filled only with prisoners and guards, power and powerlessness. And you have a choice. You want to be powerless or you want to be powerful? Everybody wants to be more powerful than powerless. And the question is, what are you willing to pay? What are you willing to do to go from being powerless to being powerful? For most people, it's an awful lot. They're willing to transgress a lot of personal values to step across the line.